Hi, I'm Alan Hill. Welcome to the Human Genome Map, Pathway to Our Future. Have you ever wondered about your blue eyes? How about your brown hair? Over the course of history, genetics have played an important role in our everyday lives. From Mendel to the Human Genome Map, scientists have devoted decades of research to finding the answer to life's riddles. In the past few years, what scientists have learned could profoundly impact the future. Our descendants will look back at today and realize that the Human Genome Map, completed in 2003, was a crucial turning point in history as we know it.
At the core of genetics is deoxyribonucleic acid, or more commonly known as DNA. It gets its name from its complex structure, which consists of a nucleotide chain. A nucleotide is a bond of a carbon-sugar molecule, a phosphate, and a nitrogen base. There are 4 major nitrogen bases that can be attached to each nucleotide. These 4 nitrogen bases are referred to as adenine, cytosine, guanine, and thymine. The pattern in which these molecules are set determines our genetic information and gives DNA its famous double helix shape that personifies genetics today. Before the idea of genetics, there are many theories of how inheritance functioned. Among these theories were pangenesis and preformationism. Pangenesis, first developed by the Greeks, was the idea that during sexual intercourse, miniature body parts such as hair, nails, and eyes were transferred to create the offspring, which would acquire these traits and develop new ones as it grew. Another idea proposed was preformationism. Preformationism got rid of the polymerization of the body parts altogether. This new idea said that either the egg or the sperm held an entire preformed person called a homunculus. When the individual was born, all that remained was to grow into a fully developed human being. As technology improved, such as stronger microscopes, both pangenesis and preformationism were debunked.
Known simply as the father of genetics, Gregor Mendel drastically altered the way we view inherited traits. Born in 1822, Mendel was always interested in science. However, he struggled with taking tests and perennially failed his teaching exams. Unable to secure employment as a teacher, he found his calling as a monk in an Austrian monastery. There, it was his job to care for the plants. From 1856 to 1863, Mendel grew an astonishing 28,000 plants, scrupulously keeping record of their physical traits. By crossbreeding certain bean plants, Mendel discovered his theory of genetics. Unfortunately, it'd be 16 years after Mendel's death in 1884 that his writings would be taken seriously. It was a largely accepted fact that our genetic information was being contained by something, but what? Until about 1944, scientists hypothesized that proteins held our genetic blueprints. Thanks to the works of geneticists such as Mendel, Avery, MacLeod, and McCarthy, it became understood that DNA held characteristics that make us unique. In 1951, the team of James Watson and Francis Crick set out to map the different aspects of DNA through a physical model. With the help of Rosalind Franklin's X-ray photographs, Watson and Crick were able to create the double helix, a final model to show the physical traits of DNA. Nearly half a century later, their work established a foundation for which the Human Genome Map could be built upon.
After Watson and Crick's discovery of DNA's double helix shape, the only task that remained unfinished was to identify each particular section in every gene and how they control traits. In 1986, cancer researcher and Nobel Prize winner Renato Del Becco proposed the idea to map out every gene in the entire human genome. Del Becco argued that if this was accomplished, it could revolutionize medical knowledge of many diseases such as cancer. When he first proposed his idea, geneticists scoffed at this plan because it would require having to tediously sort out billions of microscopic nucleotides. However, even throughout heavy criticism, Del Becco's eccentric proposal caught on with enough people to be put into action. Thus, the Human Genome Project had begun. 2 people that Del Becco's plan became popular with were Craig Ventnor, founder of Celera Genomics, and Francis Collins of the National Institutes of Health. As 2 separate research groups, privately funded Celera Genomics and the government-funded National Institutes of Health competed to be the first to map out the entire human genome. As the project preparation was nearing an end, Ventnor and Collins eventually joined together to present the plan for the Human Genome Project to Congress. After receiving permission from Congress, they began the extensive task of sequencing every gene in DNA. This was done by the use of high-speed machines that could map out DNA quicker than any person could. After 9 years, the first chromosome had been entirely sequenced. In 2003, the Human Genome Map was officially pronounced complete, and even though some of the work wasn't accomplished for a few years, at last scientists now had an entire map of the human genome.
Now, mapping the human genome is being compared to putting a man on the moon. But I believe that in terms of the future impact on society, the Human Genome Project will be seen as the outstanding achievement not only of our lifetime, but perhaps in the history of mankind.
There are some controversial ideas behind the Human Genome Map that might be part of the new innovations that happen through this field. Some of them could involve parents actually being able to choose some of their child's traits, which I think we would all agree would be controversial. Some folks might feel like that would be a good thing, others may not. There's also the idea out there that if all humans have their own genomes mapped, and things like insurance companies could get hold of this information, it might be hard to get insurance if your genetic code shows that you're going to have some sort of a disease later in life. Some companies may not want to hire you if you have some sort of genetic marker that shows you're going to get cancer at age 30 or age 40. So there are some controversial things that we have to look out for, and there may have to be legislation someday about how these situations are handled.
It took us over 10 years to do one human genome sequence about 20 years ago, and finished that project about a dozen years ago. Now we are sequencing Human Genome Project. It only takes less than a month, and right now it costs anywhere from $15,000 to $25,000. Within the next 5 years, we'll be able to sequence your own genome for $5,000. And within 10 years, I'm very sure that we're going to reach a level, it may come sooner, that we'll be achieving a level where we could sequence your own personal genome for $1,000. If it reaches that far, I'm sure everybody wants to sequence your own genome, and it may become even a law or a recommendation in order for you to get an insurance.
Although the Human Genome Map is relatively young, it has the potential to be one of the most influential innovations of the 21st century. One of its major effects is its impact on medical research. In recent years, this development has included gene therapy and stem cell research. Gene therapy is a form of genetic engineering where geneticists fix or replace faulty genes to cure hereditary diseases. These hereditary diseases include over 4,000 gene mutations, as well as many forms of cancer. Gene therapy has proved to be a potentially efficient cure for some of the world's most infamous illnesses. The other major form of genetic engineering is stem cell treatment. Stem cells are non-specialized cells that have the ability to develop into complex ones that are specific, such as dermis or pancreatic cells. Many diseases are results of damaged cells. Scientists have developed a procedure where they can take these stem cells and cause them to become specialized cells to replace these faulty cells or even organs.
So now we have all this knowledge, and now we have your personal genome sequence. It reveals everything about you, present and future. We know, what diseases that you're gonna get within the next 10, 20 years, or what diseases that you are at high risk of developing in next, 40 years or so. So, how are our society gonna pull all this together, and what kind of a social impact this is gonna bring in medical care and so on, is something that we have to seriously think about.
The Human Genome Map, one of mankind's most prolific accomplishments, will prove to be a key component in the future of society. This outline of our chromosomes could promise cures to numerous diseases, such as cancer, and extend the average human lifespan by up to 15 years or possibly even more. It will stimulate dramatic social and economic changes and cause waves of controversy in the medical and scientific communities. From only the hobbies of a humble monk emerged the foundation for what will become one of the greatest innovations of the 21st century, and will evidently change life on Earth as we know it.